We set up our warehouse, and the people in our parts department, they're right next to the warehouse door. So if they need to look at something, pull something off the shelf, if a customer needs additional pictures of it, it's right there. We've really only hit the tip of the iceberg as far as everything that we purchased. We're adding 20 to 30 items a day, but there's another 2,000 to 3,000 items that we need to add. We'd like people to understand that we're not just a parts guy answering a phone, entering a part number, that we really know the cars, that we can help, that you're not just buying the part from us, you're buying the assistance. You're getting the knowledge and the help of what part's the right part for your car, how to put it on, where it goes, a little bit more than just here's your part, thank you kind of thing.
From the narrow, tight and twisty streets of Long Beach a week ago, the Spec-5 World Tour comes to America's National Park of Speed, the wide open, full throttle, high speed, slipstreaming Road America in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. What a circuit for this style of racing and these MX-5 Cup cars. They will race so closely down the long straights at the pit straight, down towards turn 5, and of course through the kink and towards Canada Corner. And all the great overtaking opportunities therein. This should be a great one. 45 minutes of racing ahead of us, and you'll see it all live here on HJBC. I'm David Haynes, joined by Devin Peters. Devin, we're so excited. It's a big track, it's high speed, and it's brought to us by RC Sales Porsche Parts. Which is, go to rcsales.com for all that is Porsche. RC has thousands of parts available for virtually any Porsche model, providing high quality service with a personal approach. With worldwide shipping available, you won't need to go anywhere else. Visit rcsales.com today, and thank you so much to them for sponsoring the broadcast and the championship.
So, as we get out into the qualifying here today, we're going to see these guys racing around the venerated course here at Elkhart Lake underneath the Sargento Cheese Bridge, and really pushing the top speed limits of these little Miatas here.
I don't think there's any track I love the trackside advertising more than here, because first sector, Cheese Bridge, middle of the lap, Hot Dog Bridge. It just needs something to close it out at the end, like, I don't know, a beer or an ice cream.
I thought it was like a Canada Corner joke that was coming. I'm a little disappointed by you, Haynes.
Oh yeah, okay, maybe some poutine then. Why not? Sure, that'd go down a treat. But again, the contrast between where we've been the past couple of rounds at some of the shorter circuits to be here at Road America. It is 6.4 kilometers long, basically 4 miles or so, much longer than Long Beach, which is, I guess, ironic in a way. But what it means is in this 15-minute qualifying session, they are going to need to hustle to get around on their outlap to then complete 4 flying laps. And we're looking at the youngest driver in the field, Andrew Gilliland, as he's going around that outlap, trying to get the tyre temperature ready to then attack the first flying lap. Track limit's probably not as big of an issue here as they've been at some other places. So long as your 4 tyres are on pavement and not grass, you'll probably be okay. We're about to start the first flying lap with Andrew Gilliland.
Yeah, where you will see it is on the exits and on the entries, because there's so much time to be gained in these high-speed corners, trying to carry that little bit of extra momentum with these little 140 horse Miatas running around 160 horse, whatever it is these days. And they'll be looking for every single little bit of real estate they can to try and avoid scrubbing any speed.
Now, one thing I'm not quite as fond about with Road America and the trackside signage is the corner numbering. But once you get over it, it is what it is. That's turn 3. We go flat out in a straight line and we arrive at turn number 5. 4 was in the middle there somewhere, but this braking zone at turn number 5, absolutely deceptively tricky, because the moment you get towards the braking zone, the track pitches downhill and it extends the braking zone there. The car wants to run on. It's very difficult to make it stop for that turn number 5. Where you don't want to run out wide and get outside of the track limits. You want to point up the hill underneath the Corvette bridge and in towards turn number 6. It's Andy Kosick, one of the open class drivers, denoted by the blue stripe underneath his position. And he is in his very mint mobile as well on his first of the 4 flying laps from this session.
Riding up under that Corvette bridge. And I think probably enjoying himself out here. It's it really is, all jokes about sponsorship and stuff like that aside, a beautiful track, a real fun track to run. And as he comes through the hurry downs, it's one of those tracks that lets you really set a nice rhythm.
Now, if you've got a favorite driver or a favorite team that you want to keep an eye on, HJBC.live has the live timing. So if you are indeed an Andrew Kosick fan, or a Eugenio Pollicci fan, or maybe a Timon Bramley fan, follow along the live timing, and through qualifying and the race, you'll be able to keep tabs on their progress, pit stop times, and the like. Timon Bramley coming off the back of a couple of good results.
I think I'd have to say that I'm a Nick Rice-Puto fan right now with the way this first opening lap is looking for him. He set a bunch of purple sectors out there as he comes across the line in that number 69 mobile and sets what will be the first lap to beat, 2:33.5. Pretty solid relative to what we saw in qualifying. Did a good job of getting the tires up to temp, that's for sure. And we'll see if anyone else can knock him off the top step. Certainly know that Ronnie Coates will be making an effort. He's gone and set a 2:34.1 his first time around, but Coates has been a perennial at the front of the field this year and leading the points as we get into our 10th round here today.
So 12 drivers with a time, and Nick Rice-Puto's lead at the top there remains half a second, but it is very, very common that the second flying lap faster than the first as the tyres still build that temperature, balance out a little bit, though the effect will be less noticeable on a longer circuit like this. On this second lap of the run, Sean Hayes is off to a good start. Andrew Gilliland isn't, because he's just looped it around on the exit of turn number 5, and Sean Hayes has run wide from the exit of the Corvette bridge, so upping the ante, pushing the limits further on the second flying lap, and a couple of drivers coming undone. This is how Andrew Gilliland gets a bit too much of the apex curb by the looks of it there, and the bounce unsettles the car, which it will do. No downforce on these cars means you take a ride across a curb like that wrong, and you do lose the weight on the wheels and lose the grip.
Yeah, easy to do around here, especially because, like I've been alluding to, every single corner around here is just so committed, so can't afford to waste any time. And Sean Hayes got caught chasing a little bit there. Following along now with Andrew Gilliland. Andrew Gilliland's put together a pretty solid season so far in the open class, currently second in the points, following Tom Aton, who's going to be leading the way in the points at this point in the season. But for what it's worth, Aton not going to make an appearance in our qualifying session today because he's starting from the pits. Too many penalty points will do that to you, Haynes.
Oh dear, oh dear. Nick Rice-Puto continues to go quicker, so this is still looking like a great home for him. Do we keep jinxing people? Is that all clear, all fine on the track limits out of the final corner? He's heading up the hill. Unique feature of this track as well, that you come out of the final corner and you can't see the start finish line. You've got to go over the crest to get to the line. Don't thinking I'm seeing anything there. No, because Ronnie Coates improves, dislodges him from the pole position. Nick Rice-Puto not capable of improving on that second lap. And there's a couple of other drivers out there that still could. 5 minutes. Yeah, okay. Everyone is going to get their 4 laps in because it'll take them another 5 minutes to do 2 more laps, and there's about 6.5 minutes in the session. So about 1.5 minutes of leeway to play with there for most of the drivers, but they all will get 4 attacking laps in this qualifying session. And Joshua Soto goes to second, and now on his next lap he continues to improve and find more time. We've got 27 cars at the moment. Road America proving very, very popular, and there might still be a surprise at the end of this qualifying session.
Yeah, we've seen Soto in enough races to know what he can do if you let him get it to the front of the field. So he'll be pushing the limits on the entry here into 5. Love to see it, but really nailing what you got to do, because the real problem in 5 is that you brake too late and you miss the apex. Well, Soto has nailed it and has that car drifting around every single corner.
Yeah, he does. Really, really aggressive turn in underneath the Corvette bridge and up the top of the hill and then towards the hurry downs. Joshua Soto currently second in qualifying. Will he find improvement towards the end of this lap? A driver who's didn't seem to stick the first couple of laps, Timon Bramley, though, is gone to 4th, and he's only 2/10 away. And we know big lap means 2/10 is not much at all when you've got miles and miles and miles to only need to pick up a little bit of speed.
Drama for Josh Soto in second place as he was exiting the carousel there. I saw him running wide. Easy to do when you're trying to carry that bit of momentum, and you got all 4 tires off on the exit, slid it through. That'll invalidate this lap, and he invalidated his first lap, so we'll see if he's able to put together a clean one to try and unseat Coates before the end of this session.
It's all still tidy from Bramley. He's flying. He reaches the carousel. Very, very, very long right-hander, and he seems to be of the mind to just keep it tight to the inside line all the way around. Sometimes you see drivers take an early apex, try to diamond off the corner, and then come back to a late apex to make it a double apex around there. Should be pretty well flat out through the kink as well, and it's still trending for some improvement for him. He'll trip the second sector line just before he breaks into Canada corner, and that's gone well for him as well. This looks like it could shoot him to the top of the board. It looked like Ronnie Coates or some of those others improved on their lap as well. So this is all coming good at a good time in the session, I think, for Bramley.
Yeah, I haven't seen any movement at the top of the list, but have noticed Coates, Soto, and Rice-Puto all did invalid laps on their 3rd attempt. So pushing a little bit too hard. Hopefully they were able to cool the tires down to make their 3rd attempt here.
Bramley's up on his personal best, and he's up by a margin. He's coming towards the line. He only needs to find 2/10 to go to the top of the timing sheet. He finds 5 to now put himself clear by 3/10 from Ronnie Coates, Joshua Soto, Nick Rice-Puto, and Camden Hibbett as the top 5. I'm not seeing a lot of green sectors on this 3rd flying lap from everyone, and that sometimes tends to happen. Warm-up lap, push lap on lap number 2, maybe cool down on lap number 3 to try to get it together for lap number 4. What are you seeing out there, Devin?
Another drama for Joshua Soto coming through turn number 5 this time. He gets it wrong, takes an incident, and decides to park it on the pit lane. I think he's going to be done for the session. That was on his 4th lap, so he's no longer a factor. Timon Bramley
super wide entry, and the tail just snaps out of him in the mid corner. He realizes, no, this is not going to be an improvement with a loss of time like that. Now it looks like it's qualifying done for Joshua Soto. Bramley currently on the provisional pole, still going, still attacking. Lost a tiny bit of time in the 2nd sector, but the 1st was good, and it is a long lap here where if you're 10th down at this point of the lap, you still back yourself to maybe be able to find that improvement through the carousel, through Canada corner, and through the final corner with the long run to the line.
Rice-Puto's taken the pit lane this time by as well in that 69 car. Unfortunately for him, he's going to have to give up on this lap after an incident for him. Camden Hibbett's making a late charge as well, seeing him putting some times up on the board. Got himself up to 5th place last time by. And that was Jose Gonzalez we just saw crossing the line. His fastest lap was on the second, 2:34.1, and that's good enough for first and open right now. We'll see if that holds.
Yeah, indeed. We'll see if it holds. Here's Orlando Herald from 22nd. That might have been his first lap there, or that one was invalid. So for Orlando Herald, I think that's qualifying done. There's a couple drivers behind him with no qualifying because there are some penalties out there, like you touched on a little bit earlier. Ken Copeland in 11th. I'm seeing him as having 4.5 laps to the stint, which would say that he has used them all up. Mm-hmm. Finds himself in 11th. Ray Lombardi coming out of the final corner on his final lap.
Yeah, he's still
the last drivers left.
I'll say he's put a couple of green sectors together for himself, so we'll see if it's enough to bump him up the leaderboard. Be real nice to start in the top 10. I know he likes to measure himself against Sean Hayes too, who's in 7th, so let's see.
He gets one. Ray Lombardi goes up to 10th. Eugenio Pollicci put in the time that took him to 14th. And there's only a few cars left on track. Ray Lombardi's about to be not one of them. There we go. With 10 seconds left in this session. David Stabe, 9th. Trending to improve on this lap. Now, he will be allowed to complete it or no? No. That's a shame for him.
Yeah, he was showing off some of those Lamborghini skills, I got to say, while he was wheeling it around there, but he'll have to put those back in and get going here on the start.
Exactly. Let's take a look at the grid. And as you see the drivers' positions and their numbers, keep in mind that some of the gold numbers represent our best supporters of the series, have put a little bit of their money where their mouth is to donate to keep the series running with its hosting costs, with its broadcasting costs. And red is your championship leader in pro, blue your championship leader in open. The front row of the grid, as they're getting ready for the formation lap for what will be a 2-wide rolling start, it's Timon Bramley and Ronnie Coates. Bramley with the pole will have the privilege of the inside line heading into turn number 1. Row number 2, Joshua Soto and Nick Rice-Puto. Camden Hibbett and Michael Coates are row number 3. Row number 4 has Sean Hayes and Geordie Fike. And row number 5 is David Stabe and Ray Lombardi. In 11th, Jose Gonzalez, our best qualifying open driver in 11th, is going to be alongside Ken Copeland. And then Trevor Roy and Eugenio Pollicci are side by side there on row number 7. Row 8, Brian Zabelski and Greg Mack. Then we get into another run of the open drivers, and it just goes to show what a great qualifying Jose Gonzalez put in. And he is quite a few cars clear of his next best competition in class, Andrew Gilliland and Andy Kosick. Then Paulo Coimbra and Josh Olsen, 19th and 20th. Last drivers with qualifying times are Sancinelli and Orlando Herald?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's true. 22nd and the last driver with a qualifying time. And Devin, maybe you can clear up who didn't set a qualifying time versus who actually has a penalty back there.
Yeah, we're expecting Tom Aton, Kane Lasky, and Charles Vaccaro to start from the pits today based on their infractions. So we're seeing them load into the session. It is a little surprising to see Rory Coimbra registered for the session. He's been a factor in a lot of races this season, but he's not making the grid today. We'll see if that changes before the flag drops here. And looks like Lee Martin's taken the grid as well. Lee Martin won't have a qualifying time set, but he will be starting at the back of the grid. Now, everyone starting at the back of the grid is at a disadvantage, but I got to think that Tom Aton's really the one feeling the punishment of it. Leading the championship, you got to start from the back. That's a real hard pill to swallow for those open class drivers.
Well, you can see how valuable many of these drivers think tire temperature is going to be. We've got the full formation lap, and it gives them the opportunity to build a little bit of temperature in the tires before they have to go too wide and start to form up on the back stretch a little bit further around. We're talking about the driver number colors, and there is a key for what they all mean. But we got to thank everyone in the championship who supported it, put this season together. So your pro and open class points leaders.
In red and blue. And then our supporters of the series with that gold, silver, and bronze, making sure this whole thing is possible, along with Aussie Sales Porsche parts, of course. Go to AussieSales.com for all that is Porsche. Aussie has thousands of parts available for virtually any Porsche model, providing high-quality service with a personal approach and with worldwide shipping available. You won't need to go anywhere else. Visit AussieSales.com today.
Now, I was talking about love the cheese bridge, love the Johnsonville sausages bridge, but then I'd totally forgotten betwixt them the Corvette bridge. So that would be a good day. Cheese, Corvette, sausage.
Can't complain. I gotta say, I'm really excited for the racing around here today, Haynes. I know everyone knows Road America and what to expect, but watching these cars drafting up and down these big straights and the amount of battling that's possible in these really tight corners, like Canada corner coming up here, it's gonna be a real blast, I gotta think.
It's got that character to it where you can pass someone with a good toe down the pit straight, pass them into turn 1, come off of turn 3, they'll pass you back on the way down towards turn 5. You'll try to follow them closely around through the hurry downs, through the carousel, and then pass them again here into Canada corner. So you can swap and swap and swap all within the space of one lap, and it is very high average speeds. Could be quite high fuel consumption as well, which will factor in to the compulsory pit stop during the pit window in the middle of this 45-minute race, and lots to think about with all of that. Should be close racing on track, should be some challenging strategy, and hopefully another great Spec-5 World Tour finish in 45 minutes time. But they're at the final corner. The pole sitter, Timon Bramley, giving some space to the pace car, and we're about to get underway for round 10 of the Spec-5 World Tour from Road America. There's the pit entry, there goes the pace car. They all pack up tight, waiting to come up the hill towards the start of the race, and then the long run in towards turn number 1 as well. Green flag given, your top 10 oh so tightly compressed, but the pole sitter is in a good position. It looks like Ronnie Coates is going to get pushed by Nick Rice-Puto on the outside lane though. They are absolutely nose to tail. There's your pit lane starters getting underway as well. Still too wide in towards turn number 1. Ronnie Coates has a little bit of a wiggle. Timon Bramley now through into the lead of the race. Joshua Soto from that inside lane from 3rd on the grid might come through into 2nd. Down in towards turn number 3. They've got to be so careful, but we're away cleanly so far.
Yeah, and watching the pit lane, I'm seeing all those cars we were talking about with penalties streaming away cleanly as well. You've got Kane Lasky followed by Rui Coimbra, Tom Aton, and Charles Vaccaro all doing their best to try and catch the back end of this pack that's continuing on down into the 5th turn.
Turn number 5 was a danger spot in qualifying. In the racing, could it be the same? It's all good so far. Joshua Soto, Nick Rice-Puto making up some moves as Ronnie Coates' bobble in turn 1 set him back from challenging for the lead from his 2nd place on the grid to back into 4th. Can still absolutely move forward from there. Still part of the pack. In fact, our whole field still a single line all the way down to 17th position from the leaders. When you've got these cold tires, you don't want to be on the grass. And there was Coates and Hibbert both having a little bit of a run through it, making it a little bit more National Park than National Park of Speed.
If you watch the runoffs around here, you'll see those Spec Miatas go flying off in the grass there all the time. So I suspect Camden Hibbett's no stranger to that part of the racetrack. I mean the runoff. Another one off. That's Eugenio Polici through the fast bit.
Yeah, at the kink, car going out wide, getting a little bit of the grass, and that can be so dangerous because if you spin one way or the other, the walls are as close as they are anywhere else. But Michael Coates has spun it at Canada Corner, facing backwards. Now in the runoff, needing to spin it around, but not rejoin unsafely, waiting for almost the whole field. Looks like as he's tried to transfer from braking to picking up the power there, he's lost it. And here are these drivers that started from the pit lane. A couple of them already ahead of him. Rui Coimbra, Kane Lasky. As Michael Coates goes backwards. And who's that who's had a drama at the final corner?
You might think he's Canadian because of the car color, but that's Jordy Fike running in 8th place at the start of this lap. I imagine that's going to be a much lower number by the time he crosses the line here. Got it a little bit too wide and did a good job of saving it. There's a reason there's tires on that inside wall there.
You've got to have some friends in Spec-5 World Tour Racing, and apparently Timon Bramley doesn't, because Nick Rice-Puto's pushed Joshua Soto to the race lead when they went down the pit straight. Will he do it again on the run towards turn number 5? Or will Rice-Puto be looking for the favour returned? There's the bumper pushing Joshua Soto along. Even with that, though, the slipstream mighty powerful. Timon Bramley comes out of the throttle. He's looking to save some fuel. Ronnie Coates in 4th place does the same, was in position to take a run, but stays in line. The fuel-saving games afoot already. Joshua Soto to the race lead, but 3rd, 4th, 5th, all looking to roll out of the throttle, crack it a little bit, and save some gas.
Ooh, and real wide there from Josh Soto, but manages to get it pointed the right way before running off the track, a critical thing to do. And we're seeing a bit of a breakaway here. We don't often see the top 5 getting away this early, but on the second lap through the hurry downs, and there's nearly a second between them and Sean Hayes in that yellow car, who's just frantically trying to hang on.
Yeah, you've got to drive it hard if you're going to try to catch this group. What might be helping him is 3rd, 4th, 5th rolling out of the throttle on the straights, but Nick Rice-Puto pushing Joshua Soto makes it more difficult to catch. Someone is going to have difficulty catching it out of the carousel, and it's 27 of Eugenio Polici. Oh, no. On the grass, spins trying to rejoin it, gets absolutely drilled by Orlando Herrell. And that is a nasty accident. Eugenio Polici has had a couple of little off-track adventures so far in this race. This one, he just gets in a little hot, gets out a little wide, and you can see he's trying to brake, he's trying to save it. But once you're in trouble, you're in trouble. He's soft pedaling it, but the trouble starts when the inside wheels get on the pavement and grip up.
Well, and you know what? I don't think it was just the two of them involved. Jordy Fike gets knocked off the track there at the end too. So I think there was 3 guys that got cleaned out in that one. Fike's limping it around back to the pits, but it doesn't want to turn right through Canada Corner this time. What a hard race for him. Had a pretty decent qualifying effort up in the top 10, and he's going to be paying the price all the way to the pits. And I don't think that he's going to be able to fuel to the end today.
Have you been watching the Tour de France? I haven't, but some of our friends have. And that's what I'm seeing from this top 6, top 7, top 8. Nick Rice-Puto not pushing Joshua Soto this time, but lifting out of the throttle. Then Bramley lifting out of the throttle. Then Coates lifting out of the throttle. And all of them down the pit straight there, just staying half a car length off the car in front, rolling out of the power. And it's let Sean Hayes, David Staben, Ken Copeland catch this group. Joshua Soto with a bad run off of turn 3, and now it forces Rice-Puto's hand, and he has to go and try to take the race lead. Everyone else tries to follow him, lifts out of the throttle, and you see the run Sean Hayes gets. He has to hit the brakes before the corner because he's got so much speed but nowhere to go. Such is the extent of the fuel saving out of this leading group. No one even wants to chance to take a lead.
They must have all been watching. Someone's taught them the meaning of the word peloton, and now they're all like, oh, I don't want to lead up the hill.
It's French for $4 a gallon? No way, man. So I'll save some if it'll save me a second or two on pit lane, which is what it very much might do. 72 kilometers an hour or 45 5 miles an hour, the pit lane speed limit here, but it's a really, really long one and a challenging pit entry here as well. You can't see the yellow cones, you can't see the commitment line until you've already come over the crest and you've either braked too early or carried too much speed in. That's one to keep in mind when we enter the pit window in the middle phase of this race. It's a top 6 group because Ken Copeland's dropped back a little bit. But behind Ken Copeland, another group there. So your top 13 drivers all within about 5 seconds. Rice Puto leads them. Sean Hayes looking to make a couple positions. He's now our big mover in the leading group. Up into 3rd position he goes. Oh, and I've nearly jinxed him as he has a huge tank slapper off Canada corner.
It's hard to drive these things at the limit, but it's also hard to drive these things at 7/10 of the limit, really close to a bunch of other people.
Yes, indeed. So this rejoins that kind of leading group. Rice, Puto, Soto, Bramley, Hayes, Coates. There isn't a clear 1 second of racetrack until you get back to Brian Zabelski in 13th. Greg Max picked up a couple of positions, but Jose Gonzalez still remains our leading open class driver, and he's the only open class driver in this leading train of 13 cars. Andrew Gilliland back in 14th is trying to catch this group, and I think he might. You can spot him quite easily back there in the Brumos Porsche tribute livery, white, blue, and red stripes. So him and Josh Olsen and Andy Kosick, 3 open class drivers there, can see the leading pack and will want to stay with it because they know that's where Jose Gonzalez is.
Speaking of people who can just about see the leading pack, our pit lane crew has rounded turn number 3 here and are heading under that Sargento Cheese Bridge shortly, and they've been working real hard at the back here, but with all the fuel save going on up at the front, they've been cutting nearly 2 seconds a lap out of the guys in that lead pack. This might not be the end for them.
Up front, Bramley goes back to the lead as he got a slipstream on Rice Puto, who just rolled over, let him have it. Sean Hayes has been looking racy. He's got to defend his position around the outside at the top of the hill from Joshua Soto. And as they go through the Hurry Downs and down the hill towards the carousel, Ken Copeland's picked up a couple more spots up into 7th. It's just so interesting. Sometimes the leader doesn't want to lead, but those behind don't want to pass. And then eventually there comes a point where someone in 2nd or 3rd or 4th goes, you know what? If we're lifting 500 feet before the braking zone, I might as well just go through and take the race lead. If you're going to offer it up that easy, I'll go for it. Hint of Bramley trying to break the slipstream there. He's only 6/10 clear of Rice Puto. And then everyone else, as you can see, in a flurry, in a hurry behind. HJBC.live for your live timing, and it'll tell you that there are 15 cars in the lead train, this high-speed circuit, these long straights. It's Wisconsin's Monza.
I had a moment there where I was wondering if Rice Puto, if Sean Hayes was going to make a move on Timon up at the front, but I was mistaken because he's been shuffled to the back, or shuffled back a spot by Nick Rice Puto. And as they come off that final corner, it gets kind of a shaky run as well, and they're stacking up behind him. 2 wide, looks like, going into turn number 1. Getting that side draft is Ronnie Coates up the inside of Josh Soto here. We'll see if he wants the spot that badly. Seeing lots of strategic driving here out at the front.
Soto sees that he's side by side and on the outside, rolls out of the throttle early, but Sean Hayes doesn't, so only 1 spot for Ronnie Coates, and then Joshua Soto immediately has a sniff back down the inside at turn number 5, and as he comes back in line, he gets a tap from behind from Camden Hibbert, who wasn't maybe fully expecting it. No harm done. Race lead absolutely extinguished for Bramley there as Rice Puto gets to his bumper and has to make a decision. Bramley comes across to the inside. Rice Puto follows him, will not look to take the lead, will look to just sit behind. And so Bramley still leads them into turn 5, but the extent of the fuel saving is giving some big checkups as they start to approach the corners.
Yeah, absolutely. It's also kind of interesting because I feel like if Rice, Puto, and Bramley put their minds to it, they could form a breakaway here. The two of them had great pace in qualifying, first and fourth overall qualifiers. They've got a pit between themselves and the rest of the field. Like, you got to wonder at a certain point if maybe you got to take your advantage and go.
It's like the reverse of playground tag. Instead of, you're it and you're trying to catch one of 15 other kids, it's you're it and 15 are trying to catch you. What's happened, Devin?
Big drama in the middle of the field. Kane Lasky, who was trying to drive his way back up and was part of that group of pit callers, gets it a little bit wrong on the exit and just drives straight on into the wall. Honestly, I'm not sure if that's a hardware issue or what, but he drives straight into that Johnsonville-Brats bridge and bounces out into traffic. Good luck that everyone was able to avoid him. Gotta think, though, there was some sort of issue, maybe a frame drop or a freeze that took him out. Either way, he's back in the pit lane and looking like he might be out of this race.
That smells like, monitor gone black or screen frozen or something, that he doesn't kind of go full speed, but he also doesn't brake. He just kind of goes straight on from that moment. So a shame for Kane Lasky, who done so well to try to fight forwards in this race. Fighting forwards is Joshua Soto as he looks down the inside of Sean Hayes in turn one. And, Sean Hayes, he has no choice. Nick Rice-Puto rolls out of the throttle so early in front of him, it boxes him backwards. And it sends Ronnie Coates forward a handful of positions. I'd mistaken Josh Soto and Ronnie Coates. They're both in red and black cars, the WEC prototype special.
You know me, I'm always keeping an eye on stuff deeper in the pack. So a critical moment in the Tom Aton story here. Tom Aton and Sancinelli getting tied up in a battle, and it's broken the gap between Aton and Coimbra and Coates. And unless Aton can find a way to catch up, he's going to be struggling to make ground because he's been barely hanging on to those two when he had the draft. So I got to think without the draft, it's going to be hard for him to close that gap.
Yeah, having another look at it, the 57 looking a little aggressively, Sancinelli, and then Tom Aton says, I'll cover that off. He goes deep on the brakes and runs a little wide out the exit of turn number 5. It's a bit more paved runoff there than it used to be way back in the day. In the leading group, I also saw Camden Hibbert and Sean Hayes make some side-by-side door-to-door contact as Camden Hibbert tried to force his way back through. Sean Hayes been a bit of a yo-yo in this field, gone as high as sort of second place, been dropped back to 6th now, as there's a little bit more moves being made. I think we're approaching the pit stop window, but by the looks of things, this seems like a race you're going to want to run long because you can save fuel staying in the pack. If you pit now, you're out of the pack, you're not saving fuel, and you'll get swamped by those who remain part of the peloton. It looks like the breakaway is not going to be the place to be here at Road America.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you that, like, even if they are saving this much fuel, they're still running low 233s, which would have been good for, pole time in qualifying. So these guys are really benefiting from that draft, even though they're lifting so early going into these corners.
Contact and that battle between Camden Hibbert and Sean Hayes has just separated them from the leaders, and I think Bramley, Coates, Rice-Puto, Soto really switched on guys in this style of racing. I think they sensed that, and I think I saw a three-way bump to try to get the leading group away from the ferocious pursuers. David Stabe and Ken Copeland go side by side through turn number 1. David Stabe picks up another position and sends Copeland back. Copeland had been one of the big movers who'd, again, made a lot of progress forward when everyone was in a much more fuel-saving mode. Maybe now is finding things a little tougher going in the leading pack as they start to see the time and the laps remaining count down and start to imagine that they're not too far away from maybe needing to pit. Big aggressive move from Ken Copeland to go from the right-hand side to the left-hand side of the racetrack. Get to the inside line for turn number 5. One of the best overtaking opportunities, but he brakes a little earlier than Stabe. He makes good use of that pavement around the outside. Still a bit of overlap heading to the Corvette bridge. No. Copeland gets shut out. But with that long run from 3 to 5, I think Camden Hibbert, Sean Hayes, they did manage to reunite with the leading 4. And again, it's a pack of 12 still. All of them with, I'd say, as good a chance as any to take away a podium today.
Yeah, especially with the possibility for tragedy that always lurks around these corners, on the exits, on the entries. It only takes one wheel placed wrong, and you're going to pay for it. Interesting, though, to see Coates out at the front. I don't know if he's hit his number or what, but he's now leading this thing on Timon Bramley. And Bramley's going to be hoping for a fuel save, I got to think, after doing his part in the first 13, 17 minutes there. Math's hard, man.
Bramley gets a really good run and elects to just stay at the rear bumper. So he made no attempt to try to pass there when he could have, and just sat behind the championship leader, Ronnie Coates, RK, I'm going to call him for disambiguation reasons next time he's side by side with Michael Coates, which unfortunately isn't this race, because that early spin for Michael Coates did set him back a little bit. Riding on board with the second place man, and not many pit stops yet. Almost all of them, yes, all of them from drivers who pitted because they had damage. Orlando Herrell and Geordie Fike and Eugenio Polici, we know that they collided. Here's Timon Bramley pushing the leader. Third place Rice Puto rolls out of the throttle, has a mega lift and coast, and a big concertina effect ensues out of the leading 6 heading towards turn number 1 on this occasion.
Yeah, and it's back to what we've been seeing before. We got solid 10 guys in that lead pack. Actually seeing a little bit separation now for the 11th, 12th, and 13th position. 9th, 10th, no, 10th, 11th, I can't tell. It's Jose Gonzalez, Greg Mack, and Trevor Roy that have broken away in the negative way. They've been broken. They've fallen back a little bit, especially through turn number 1.
Long shot down the straight shows all the way back to 16th place Andy Kosick, who's still within 10 seconds of the outright lead. And Stabe and Ken Copeland still seem to be the feistiest duo in this pack. They've tried to swap back and forth a few times now that I've spotted.
Getting pretty deep on the pit lane window here, gotta think. They're saving fuel for sure, but I was under the... No, I'm reading my maths wrong. Are they just entering the window or just ending the window? You figure?
Well, they've got to be just entering it because no one's pitted yet, so... Strong
argument. But it will be interesting to see...
I won't ask you to remind us what you teach, but...
French has no connection to mathematics, fortunately for me, or esoteric spreadsheets. But that's a story for another day. Regardless, it would be interesting to see. I think that there's too much time. Yeah, I think there's too much.
Bramley got his braking wrong and touched the rear bumper of Ronnie Coates on the way through Canada Corner, and the race leader held on. But gee, it would have really thrown a cat amongst pigeons.
Yeah, what I was saying before all the action there was I'm wondering if we will see anyone break out and drop and try and go for that, maybe you can get 2-3 in a group and go and do a little bit of drafting. There's not a lot of traffic behind them, especially after you take the gap of a pit stop. And we are starting to see the times at the front drop off. 2:34s this past time by for most of the drivers up there. So if you were going to have a go at it, that might be the time. Sean Hayes and David Stabe getting a little bit feisty.
Yeah, exactly. Once again, and Copeland most of the way ahead, but not all the way clear. Still gets hung around the outside of turn number 3. David Stabe might just get him. I just had a peek across the Discord to see who's got teammates, who's got friends in this leading group. And for your race leader, Ronnie Coates, it's part of hashtag not a team. he doesn't have his normal rear gunners around him that he'd expect. Tom Athon, Michael Coates, Rui Coimbra are not part of this leading group. Those are guys you might normally expect to be running inside of the top 10, be part of this group, but for reasons they're not. Bramley catches a little bit of the grass on the exit of the Corvette corner, and he has a big moment that stunts his run and maybe makes the drivers behind think he's a little bit vulnerable. I'm smelling pit in lap from a lot of these drivers. The level of attack now, the less fuel saving, I reckon we're just about approaching that inflection point in the race.
Yeah, we are seeing things get a little stretched out at the front. I think this is maybe the biggest gap we've seen out there all race long.
So what will Nick Rice-Puto do? He gets a great run in third place through the kink, closing in on Bramley, who's closing in on the leader. Do we see any moves happen at Canada Corner? Because if they did, that would be a big signal that we're approaching the pit window and the drivers are just going from one phase of racing in staying in line, taking no risks, saving fuel, to now's the time to get track position so I can attack the pit entry, so I can get a good pit stop, so I can hopefully come out in some clean air and maximize that in-lap, stop, out-lap phase. Third and fourth go through the grass on the exit of the final corner. Nick Rice-Puto and Joshua Soto trying to get a big run up the hill and on the pit straight.
Yeah, no go there. A little bit of action, though, a little deeper in the field. Tom Aton's been passed by Trevor Roy, or rather, not passed, but Roy, I believe, has gone and served, or taken his... Has he taken a stop just yet? No, Roy's had an issue, I guess, by the looks of things, and has ended up back there with them. But that might actually be an advantage here for Tom Aton, because Aton was looking for someone to draft with at this point in the race.
Now let's see what to expect of the pit stops now as they get down the lane, long way down the lane, and try to find their crews. And you can see pit stop times on the live timing at hjbc.live if you want to keep up with it. A couple left side tyres going on in some places there, like Tom Athon, the open class points leader at this point. Doesn't even want to load to tell us. Oh, he's even going some cheeky right sides there. See if that's the ploy, but I'm seeing a lot of stops, sort of 22, 23, 24 seconds here. We said this is probably a high fuel consumption circuit compared to most.
Yeah, and a little bit of extra fuel going in the car means you got a little bit of extra time to put on some of those tires. So it might be key here. Tom didn't lose too much doing that, and it looks like nobody else really went much longer than 24 seconds there. So it will be interesting to see. We might be at one of those races where it makes some sense. Seeing another battle here in the middle of the pack, watching Andy Cossack and Michael Coates. Michael Coates and Rory Coimbra, those two pro cars, go past Andy Cossack with relatively few incidents. But if you're Cossack kind of hanging out on the back half of the top 10, he's running 12th at the start of this lap, down to 14th now. He'll be hoping that those guys drag him towards the front, you got to think.
This is the front, and it's 9 cars at the moment. 20 minutes left in the race. We've seen plenty of fuel saving, plenty of changing the lead around. So what follows now? Expecting a little bit of a rush on pit lane from some now. Bramley's coming across, and all but Rice-Puto, Stabe, and Copeland look like they come in, attacking the pit entry. Any concertina effect there? Coates was right behind Timon Bramley and maybe almost gave him a little bit of a touch, and they're at a slightly differently calibrated pit lane speed limiters here as well, where Ronnie Coates is like, I'll try to get around you as we look to get to our cruise. Interesting from Ronnie Coates there, as he's going to gain a car length or two out of it.
It's a long pit lane. If you can risk it a little bit more than the guy beside you, you can see what happens, and he gets stopped first critically. And
he's going for left sides, nothing for Bramley. Looked like nothing for Hibbett there either. Soto looks like he's going to get out of the lane with a very, very quick stop. He jumps Coates, who's jumped... I'm looking in the right place. Bramley, who comes out only just ahead of Hibbett. So not a super great stop and pit stop phase there from Bramley. Mega one from Joshua Soto, but he's stopped almost 2-3 seconds shorter than anyone else. He must have saved big in that first stint, but he might still need to save a little bit in this back part of the race as well. And he's got Coates and Bramley and Hibbett still just behind him, close enough to stick with him, I think, on this outlap.
And track position could be critical, but you'd think that you want to make sure you got enough to push to the end. We'll be curious to see if Soto did put enough in. He was definitely fuel saving that whole first session, but man, 3 seconds more than everyone else, that's a hard one to swallow.
It's a short fill enough to get the track position, but not a short fill enough to create a more than 1 second breakaway. He's driving like mad on this outlap. You can see kicking up a little bit of blades of grass and dust here, there, and everywhere. But Ronnie Coates knows that he can't let him get away, that he's got to match this speed on the outlap. And I think we're going to see almost everyone else pit now. It's just your top 8 on the timing pylon that haven't stopped at the moment. Nick Rice-Puto, David Stabe, Ken Copeland, Ray Lombardi, Michael Coates, Rui Coimbra, Andy Kosick, and Charles Vaccaro at the moment. I think this is the end of what they can do. There's Joshua Soto out so wide on the exit of the carousel. He hasn't dismounted the horsey with any grace, and there goes his chance of a breakaway because Ronnie Coates at speed with momentum through the kink is going to take it away from him. Maybe even a chance of a slowdown how wide he got out there. He's got to cede all of the track position. Joshua Soto drops behind Bramley and Hibbett. Here's everyone else on pit lane. Is anyone here feeling as daring as Joshua Soto was?
It's going to be hard for Nick Rice-Puto up at the front there to make this work without a drafting partner. He paid for it that whole lap. You'll have to remember his lap time was slower. His top speed was 2 miles an hour lower down the big long straights here. We'll see if he's able to come out clean and catch up with the pack. He's sitting on the limiter in the pit lane as they fuel him up.
Rice-Puto comes off the lane after 22 seconds, but here's the rest of the pack at speed. Joshua Soto, he was too wide, but then was faced with a windshield full of the exiting Nick Rice-Puto from the pit lane. So Ronnie Coates, with all of the pit stops done, resumes the race lead from Rice-Puto, from Soto, who's looking mega racy, then Camden Hibbett and Timon Bramley. That's your top 5. Can anyone else go with them, close the gap? It's Ray Lombardi in 6th, who just needs to find half a second to get back to the leaders.
And a little deeper in the field, Sean Hayes, after lurking around that top 10, is now separated pretty strongly from the pack out in front. He'll be looking to make up some ground here as he makes a move around the outside of David Stabe there, going into 5.
So with all the pit stops done, biggest mover through the field, Rui Coimbra, is now up into 12th. Needs to find a couple more seconds to get to the next group. Sean Hayes is in 7th, where he started. Timon Bramley, the pole sitter, 5th at the back of this leading pack, where I think Soto still needs to save some fuel, and that is going to be a challenge for him in this final stint.
Yeah, that's really going to be the tricky part, but you know, he's in the right spot to do it. You don't want to give up too much track position, but you do need to give up a little bit if you want that draft. Does look like a 5-man breakaway up at the front there, though, but I will note there is that little blue and white car kind of peeking in the back of the picture. That's Ray Lombardi, who's not been that high up this season, but definitely putting together a pretty solid race for himself this week.
Yeah, the New Yorker who moved to the Netherlands. He must have really loved pronouncing all of those Dutch names at home, and he thought, give me more of them. But he's got a little bit of work to do to catch the leading group, and I think they've stretched away from him on this lap. When you look at the names inside of the top 5, all of them can be ferociously fast, and Joshua Soto, he's not worried about the fuel now because he's looking for the race lead, but he runs out of speed. He has to drop back in line. Nick Rice-Puto has huge speed, and he has to drop back. They're battling for, well, it was for 4th and 5th, but then Bramley gets such a mega run in towards turn 1 that he almost gets down the inside of 3rd place. That checks him up, and he drops backwards. So now your top 5, Ronnie Coates, Joshua Soto into 2nd, Rice-Puto 3rd, and Camden Hibbert gets back to 4th. Bramley went 5th to 3rd, back to 5th in the space of 1 corner. That's what Ray Lombardi needs. That's what he needs to see out front of him.
I was going to say, who's the one smiling after all this? It's Ray. Because if they keep battling like this and doing the fuel-saving things they're doing like this, Ray's going to get back up there. And it's going to be a 6-way battle for the top 6, not just a 5-way battle for the top 5.
The way it's shaping up, we might not get a great chance to talk about it in the final 12 minutes. So shout out at the moment to Jose Gonzalez, the open class pole sitter, still leading class, and he's got 4 seconds to Andy Kosick behind, but he's got pro class Michael Coates right in front of him that he can slipstream off of. So I reckon Jose Gonzalez is in a pretty sweet spot at the moment. Someone out front to tow him along, and a very ferocious battle pack a couple seconds behind, where Andrew Gilliland and Andy Kosick have almost tripped over each other, which is not going to help them catch up. And Josh Olsen's in that as well. So 2nd, 3rd, 4th in open class in this group, and they are swapping positions inside of the final 12 minutes of Spec-5 World Tour from Road America.
Oh, that was good stuff. Andy Kosick realizing Andrew Gilliland was right there on his bumper and taking evasive action at the right moment. Had to take a little bit of grass too, but he makes the move stick. Really well executed by him. Going through the carousel now, hoping that he can spread that gap, but we know how that goes around here. They're already starting to close up with him on the exit as they head towards the kink.
And that's where they're heading next. Brian Zabelski in a pro class battle with Greg Mack. It's right up behind open class Josh Olsen, and that could be a slightly frustrating place to be. They're kind of maybe slowing you up. You want to put some open class cars between yourself and your pro class competition in Zabelski's position there. But again, another great battle that could go all the way to the end, because a couple of long straights around the lap here makes it so difficult to break away. Leaders starting another lap, 5 to go, and Josh Soto in 2nd is pushing Ronnie Coates along down towards turn number 1.
It's interesting to note that Coates really doesn't seem to want to deal with the battle into turn number 1, but we're following along here with Andy Kosick right now, as Kosick is dealing with a run into turn number 1 all his own. Andrew Gilliland's going to be coming up the inside here, and he's got help behind. That's Josh Olsen lining things up, but Olsen doesn't give him the push he might be looking for. The whole train is going to make their way up the inside, though.
Forgive Kosick for feeling a little bit lonely, but he really attacks turn number 1 around the outside, runs out wide. Scott McLaughlin knows there's a big bump out there, and Kosick has to whoa it up, and he drops all the way to the back of this train. Gilliland goes to 2nd in the open class, Olsen to 3rd in class. The 5 outright leaders are covered by 5 car lengths as they go into turn number 5, stretch out a little bit as they go through the corner and then pick the power up uphill underneath the Corvette bridge and through turn number 6. But it seems like at the end of every straight, into turn number 1, into turn number 5, into Canada Corner, they just really compress like an accordion. As long as they don't make such an unpleasant sound, we'll all be better for it.
I was going to say, it seems to me like the secret to leading one of these races is having a livery that's red and black with maybe a tickle of white there. Oh, that was a sketchy moment there from Josh Soto as he dragged a tire on the grass, got a little bit sideways, but we've seen Soto driving these cars sideways since qualifying, so he's no stranger to all that.
5th place, Bramley runs it a little wide out of the kink. He's watching what's happening in the top 4. And what's happening is Joshua Soto is still saving a little bit of fuel. Everyone else's strategy was a bit closer to save a lot of fuel in the first stint, take a moderate amount of fuel, and then be able to go hard in the final stint. Soto's strategy is kind of save a lot of fuel in the first stint, take a very, very slim margin of fuel, and still need to save a little bit in this back section. He'll be probably trying to save and save and save to get to a point where he can go full attack on the final lap, but he's not there yet. There's about 8 minutes on the clock. There will be 4 more laps in this race. Soto, with that slipstream, with that run in second, just stays in line.
Rice Pudo had the option to give a push, got right up there and lifted out again. Oh, and a move there up the inside from Tim and Branley. He says, hey.
Out early, went back to 5th, and now Bramley took that opportunity to go to 4th place.
He says blue and white cars can be in the top 4 too. Come on.
Now, Orlando Harrell's been through the pit lane a second time, so that was him just rejoining, and he's behind 6th place Ray Lombardi. And Ken Copeland, David Stabe, and Sean Hayes will catch him in not too long. Longest pit stop inside of the top 10 belonging to Sean Hayes. So he was battling, going forward and back inside of the first stint of the race. And it doesn't look like it's translated into a quick pit stop for him, which has been a little detrimental to his hopes of a top 5 or even a podium, I suppose.
Yeah, and he sees a little moment ahead of him from Ken Copeland there. Copeland gets it all kinds of loose on the exit of 5. Sorry, that was... Oh, Copeland again. All 4 tires off after the Corvette bridge, and that's not going to set a fast lap time.
David Stabe goes around the outside of him at the very, very committed corner that leads to the hurry downs. So Stabe, Copeland, Sean Hayes all unite in a 3-way fight here for 7th, 8th, and 9th. But Andy Kossik's been turned around.
Oh, no.
And Tom Aton takes culpability for it. I think the engine is toast.
Yeah.
It was Tom Athon. So we're heading towards turn 5 here, picking up the replay. I'm seeing this for the first time because I only saw the aftermath of it. But as they go side by side, Tom Athon in red and white down the inside. Oh, okay. Maybe he tracks out a little bit wide, gets the rear bumper of Andy Kossick, spins him nose first into the unprotected concrete, and no engine can survive that.
Yeah, it was tough because both Kossick and Aton had kind of moments as they were going through the corner. Aton catches the inside curb and bounces out wide, and then Kossick gets the rear end a little bit loose out on the marbles and slides back towards the inside. 2 come together on the exit of the corner, and it's a tale as old as time.
3 laps to go for the leaders, and they're covered by 9/10 of a second from your leader, Ronnie Coates, to Camden Hibbert at the back. But of course, in a straight line with the slipstream, they compress. It's now all covered by 6/10 as Rice Pudo doesn't want to wait in third no more. He thinks, can I go 2 for 1 with a big move down the inside in turn number 1? He'll get to the inside of Soto, but he won't be committed enough to pass Ronnie Coates. And the move doesn't look like it pulls off. Camden Hibbert gets a good run off of turn number 1 from 5th place.
Ooh.
Contacts as Bramley gets in a little bit hot. That checks him up and puts him all the way back to 5th place. Rice Pudo will be lucky to survive that one. Ronnie Coates still leads with Joshua Soto at his rear bumper as they go underneath the Sargento Cheese Bridge. We're real cheese people, but real cheese is slightly emphasized.
Ronnie Coates is putting on a good show for us right now. He's been kind of the class of the field, but it'll be interesting to see if Soto can find a way around him. He's had lots of time to study the lines here as we get down to 2.5 laps to go.
Of course, if the last 2 words were emphasized, it'd be we're real cheese people, which would suggest that they're really people made out of cheese, not people who make real cheese. So the emphasis, very important there. I'm sure that one went through a focus group or 2, or they thought about it for 2 seconds, like I just did. The racing, 5 cars as the leader, Ronnie Coates, sees his tires start to wear out a little bit, kicks the tail sideways, trying to pick up the power, heading towards the carousel. It closes Joshua Soto, Nick Rice Pudo, Camden Hibbert, all up towards him, and Timon Bramley is going to have to do a little bit of work to stay with these leaders, but from what we've just seen, it's getting feisty with just minutes left in this.
Rice Pudo's looking racy on the exit of the kink, and so is Soto. Soto makes a look up the inside here as they head down towards Canada Corner. It's a drag race, and with the draft, Soto's going to have the advantage. Rice Pudo's going to have the line too. He gets a little bit squirrely under the brakes, and I think there might have been a little bit of contact. Soto slides at the apex, loses a little bit of momentum. They're still too wide coming up the hill.
Bill Mitchell bend too wide's a difficult thing to do in most cars, but I reckon you can pull it off the way that these ND Miata Mazda MX-5 Cup cars race. Soto's going to have a compromised line out of the final corner, which is a tough place to be because the track then immediately goes uphill, which saps even more of your momentum. And then a long straight towards a very quick turn number one. It puts the pressure on him from Rice Pudo in third, Camden Hibbett in fourth, and Timon Bramley will close back in as Joshua Soto looks to the inside. Rice Pudo goes with him, gives him a bump, sends Joshua Soto to the race lead. Ronnie Coates might drop from the lead back to third because Rice Pudo's still to his inside in turn number one. Helps him out just a little bit wide the wrong side of the curb, and Camden Hibbett wants to play as well. Joshua Soto, with 2 laps to go, leads this one. No grip off the racing line for Coates, and he will go backwards to 4th place. Bramley, a tidy run off of turn number 3. He's going to get a run up towards these leaders as well. Soto, look at him running middle of the road, trying to break the toe to 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. But Camden Hibbett in 3rd says, I'm going to push Rice Pudo up. We're going to close that gap, and it will be 5 cars under a blanket with nothing to separate them coming into these final laps.
Oh, and Timon Bramley, if you thought he was out of the race, he's right back up in there. I swear he gained 5 car lengths out of braking into turn 5.
Boy, oh boy. So Soto leads at the moment, but again, a style of racing where that could be a vulnerable place to be when we come towards the white flag, because 2nd will close you up, 3rd will close them up, and if 2nd looks to pass you, 3rd can push them and they'll both sail past you. In a blink of an eye, you can go from the lead to 3rd very, very quickly. And a bad bump could see both of you crash even and see someone in 4th or 5th end up coming away with this race win. It's battles everywhere you look through the field as the leaders are going to come towards the white flag, because it's 5 cars for the race lead. It's 3 cars for 7th place. It's 6 cars for 12th place, where the open class podium fight still remains with Andrew Gilliland ahead of Josh Olsen. And with Isan Chinelli and Tom Athon catching that group, they could still fight on the final lap. For Athon, for example, the class points leader, to come from about, he sits 5th at the moment, and 2nd is still an option for him. The leaders are coming out of the final corner. Barney at the timing line will have the white flag for them to signify the start of the final lap. Joshua Soto knows that he's hard up against the wall, off the racing line, trying to defend the inside, but you can only do so much. 2nd, 3rd, 4th, they're going to bump each other. Rice Pudo has the lead, but he's around the outside. Can he brake late enough and swoop to the race lead? Yes. Nick Rice Pudo leads from Joshua Soto, Camden Hibbett, Bramley amongst them. But there is still 2 long straights where anything could happen on this final lap at Road America.
Plenty of action throughout the pack. We'll get you the recap when we get to the line, but staying with the leaders, Soto now weaving to break the draft down the straight. By Soto, I mean Rice Pudo.
I made that mistake earlier. Don't go making it on the final lap now. So Rice Pudo, middle of the road, getting pushed by Soto, who might think, okay, let's the 2 of us go together. No, let me dive down the inside, so deep on the brakes at turn number 5. Bramley so deep on the brakes, he gives a little bit of Morse code to Camden Hibbett. Soto tries to come across to cover the inside. Rice Pudo with a good run gives him a little bit of a rub on the bumper. And 5 of them so close here towards the hurry downs. You're trying to set yourself up for the run out of the carousel through the kink and towards Canada Corner. But I think in these cars, you can still pass from the final corner up the hill to the checkered flag. You're thinking, not only how do I drive this car at the limit of grip, but where do I want to position myself? There are 3 threads all going at once in your head when you're Soto, Rice Pudo, Hibbett, Bramley, and Coates, the 5 drivers inside of this top 5.
Slow car on the right, that's Paulo Coimbra. He's running out of fuel, but the leaders continue on by unaffected.
Out of the kink, nothing to separate first and second. Third place Camden Hibbett has a good run. Will he try to take the both of them? He has to put a little tap on the brakes. Soto's driver's right, trying to defend. Hibbett still smells an opportunity at Canada corner, but it's not enough. They go so deep on the brakes, and Rice Puto is going to pop out wide, which leaves Soto and Hibbett to duel for the lead. Hibbett's going to try to come around the outside of Bill Mitchell bend. Soto just covers him off, slams the door in his face. The checkered flag is waiting, and Hibbett shoves it down the inside of the final corner. Does he get given enough space? Soto has his nose in front. Does he have the run? Does he have the fuel? It's uphill. Rice Puto gets a run off both of them, and he can decide the winner. Whoever he pushes takes the win. He opts to push Camden Hibbett, who takes the race win from Joshua Soto. Rice Puto in third. They were side by side, and Rice Puto got to play Kingmaker.
Oh, speaking of Kingmaker, the fuel decided everything for Ray Lombardi, who ran out as he was crossing the line. Ken Copeland, Sean Hayes, and David Stabe crossed the line before him. Orlando Harrell just behind wins the open class. Paulo Coimbra, apparently not completely out of fuel, maybe just didn't have enough to make the extra lap, is running to the line now, and we're seeing a battle behind them. Josh Olson is holding off the likes of Andrew Gilliland behind as they battle for second place on the open podium. Gilliland makes the move, but it's not enough, not in time. Josh Olson holds second on the podium, Andrew Gilliland third, and Brian Shabelski behind, followed by Greg Mack, and we're seeing a few others cross the line here, so I'm catching up to the lead, and it looks like our final drivers out on track will be Jordy Fike, I think, going to be one of our last drivers on the lead lap as he comes up the hill. A disappointing race for him, qualified up at the front, lost the bumper, lost control, and wrecked the car. He'll come to the line and take his points for 20th place because it hasn't gone so bad. It's gone so bad for Andy Cossack, who's going to be running 21st all the way to the line through the lonely wasteland of Canada Corner all alone.
No, Andy Cossack will pick up a spot here because Michael Coates has towed on the final lap, which means everyone who completes it on circuit will be ahead of him. He'll be Michael Coates will be scored on the lead lap, last car on the lead lap. So a few drivers coming to foul right at the end. Jordy Fike ends up 19th, and Andy Cossack picks up that spot from Michael Coates, and it looks like then Orlando Harrell will be one lap down. We saw him go a lap down, and Paulo Coimbra 2 down. So I don't know what has happened to Michael Coates, but that looks like, because I can see on the track map where he towed from, maybe exit the carousel or the kink. What a finish it was in the leading group, though. Looking at the results now, most everyone has taken the checkered flag. Camden Hibbett takes the win. He was side by side with Joshua Soto. It was going to be a dead heat. Nick Rice Puto in third place knew he couldn't get around either of them to take the win, but he knew he could bump draft one of them, and he picked Camden Hibbett as the race winner. It's like being on a committee and you get to cast the deciding vote there. And Rice Puto doesn't get the win. He gets a podium, but he got to choose who the winner was, which is a unique little circumstance. The pole sitter, Timon Bramley, ends up in fourth. Ronnie Coates in fifth. Might just think about his championship position from here on out and just bagging those top fives to try to maintain his race lead and get a championship if he can. Ken Copeland, Sean Hayes, Ray Lombardi, and David Stabe for ninth. Great race from Jose Gonzalez to be the open class winner, from Josh Olson and Andrew Gilliland as the podium for that class. And Brian Shabelski, Greg Mapp, Tom Athon, E. Santinelli, Lee Martin, Charles Vaccaro, Jordy Fike, and Andy Cossack ends up 20th. And yes, Michael Coates was running in 19th, I think, on track. Ends up 21st after running out of fuel or crashing or whatever the situation on the final lap. 1 lap down for Orlando Harrell, 2 laps down for Paulo Coimbra, 6 laps down for Trevor Roy and Rui Coimbra, and Eugenio Pellicci and Kane Lasky parking it early.
Yeah, I got to look at that Michael Coates incident there, and it was a classic mistake at the kink. Ran it in a little bit late, turned in a little bit wide, and ran it right into that outside wall. It's a shame.
No kink shaming, we won't show the replay, but hopefully we'll get to speak to our winners from both classes. In fact, they are standing by, and our open class winner is with Devin Peters.
Hey, Jose, how's it going?
Good, man. How are you?
Pretty good. I bet you got to be feeling pretty good about that victory out there.
Yeah, I mean it's been a while since I've been in here, you know.
Well, pretty impressive performance from you. I want to say that you put it on the pole for the open class cars, and then you followed it up with a clean race to the end. It didn't look like you struggled that much on the way, if I'm honest. Just really clean racing all the way through.
Yeah, I was trying to stay clean. I was kind of hoping Tom came up. You know, he's one of the same another team. I was kind of hoping he would catch up a little bit. But now we did great, man. It was a good race. I was sweating the whole time.
It'll do that to you out here. And it looked like you might have been leading Michael Coates there near the end. Did you see what happened to him?
No, I just saw him when he passed me. I seen him wiggle a little bit. One of the turns, I think it was the last turn. And then after I passed him a couple of turns, he looked like he went out in the grass. But I was surprised because he's pretty fast.
Well, solid race for you and a solid top 10 finish. It's going to move you up a few spots in the points, I got to think. Got any goals on the points calendar for yourself this year?
No, man. I mean, I'm just having fun trying to get back into it. I had to leave mid-season last season due to health issues. And I'm just trying to get back into it, man. The guys in our team have been very supportive and very helpful. So I'm just trying to get back up there for next season.
Got to give yourself some credit. I've heard from those guys that you're one of the driving forces in there, making sure practice sessions are happening and all that. But quality drive for you today, and props to you. Anyone else you need to shout out?
You guys, man, you guys are doing wonderful broadcasting. The guys from Spec-5, I mean, they do a wonderful job. They've also been very supportive. And the other team guys, man, I mean, I'm only fast because of them. You know, you're as good as your partners. So them, definitely.
Cheers to you.
Thank you, bud.
Absolute textbook race from our open class winner. Perfect qualifying. Relatively smooth sailing through the race, and comes away with a fantastic result. But let's dive into our pro class. I can't drag people while I'm holding my push to talk button. But now I can. And we grab our race winner, Camden Hibbett. Boy, oh boy, what a result. Could have gone any of three ways between the final corner and the checkered flag, but you come away with a perfect result.
Yeah, it was a wild race. I couldn't have been happier with how that race went. After the two start from the pits, I was frustrated last week, and I was super excited to finally get a chance to go play with the leaders. So yeah, it was a super fun race, and yeah, I got to thank Nick for the push at the end. I don't think I would have gotten him there without the help from Nick.
You're going to owe him a little more than just a nice dinner, because fate was absolutely in his hands and out of yours on the final lap there. Super close pack racing at the start, and of course exactly at the end to decide the win. But in the middle phase there, we saw a sort of split from what was a 15-car pack. Some pitting after 10 laps. You pitted after 11... No, I've got that the other way around. You pitted a little bit on the earlier side, and you've still come away with the win. How did you see that?
Yeah, I was just trying to pit with the rest of the field. I was working with Nick, and we were trying to pit together, and I made a late call to dive into pit road with Josh and Ronnie. And I think this track is so draft heavy. I think it's mainly the most important thing is just getting on pit road with somebody to work with when you come out, and just being in the mix with somebody to go draft up if you lose some time. So that was the thought process behind that. And then Nick came out right with us as well, so we could keep working together. And yeah, it was an awesome race at the end. I'm super glad the pits kept the field together and we were able to go have some fun there.
Yeah, absolutely. A circuit that really, really seems to suit these cars, and being moved up to the pro class, if I recall, relatively recently, like a duck to water in it.
Yeah, I moved up. I'm new to this league from season. My first full season was season 11. I went straight to pro with some real life Spec Miata experience, so I went straight to pro. And it's been a struggle this year. It's been a little bit frustrating. I won last 2 seasons. I've been second both times. Season 12, I think I won 3 of the 7 and still finished second. It's been a frustrating couple seasons, but I've been having so much fun. And this season, I feel like I've been really close a lot of times. And then with the start from the pits, I feel like I've been able to make my way back to the front. Or high up in the standings with those, but I just been so close all season long. It feels really good to finally get the first pro win of the season, and hoping for more here in the final few races.
Awesome, great to hear from you, and we love when the racing looks like this, but must be stressful from the driving position when you don't know, is the guy behind me going to pass me, is he going to bump me, is he just going to lift off and try to save fuel? And there's a lot of moving parts into every braking zone in the pack. Yeah,
it was complicated. There was so much fuel saving. Sorry, there was one time I looked up and I ran a 37.3, which was 4 seconds slower than what we ran in qualifying. We were saving so much fuel, especially at the beginning. So it was tough to you had to be checking your mirrors at all times, because you never know when somebody's gonna come flying in and decide they don't want to fuel save for one corner, and it almost caught me off guard a couple times. But it's a whole different type of road racing. These cars do not race like GT3s or LMP2s. They're a special kind. They're a special kind of racing. But it definitely keeps your head on a swivel. But it is some of the most fun racing on iRacing, in my opinion.
You're all basically qualified for Formula E now, so whack that one on your resume and send it around. Congratulations once again on a super close, hard-fought win in the end. The margin, a bit, 0.04 of a second there. Don't even need to get down to the thousands. Great win. Congrats. Anyone you want to thank?
Yeah, thank you. I need to thank my parents, my mom, my dad, my grandpa. Chris Noons has been coaching me. I doubt you're watching, but if you are, we need to get back together and chat. And then all my partners in real life: Buyers Automotive, Rainier Construction, Aussie Sales, Team Spirit Custom Trailers, Auto Smarts Radio, and Westerville Automotive. You guys have been a huge help in real life as well. So I can't wait to hopefully get the iRacing car updated to some new partners and a new scheme for hopefully next season, and can't wait to finish off the season strong.
Awesome, and you might need to thank Nick Rice-Puto again.
Yeah, I forgot about him. Nick, thank you so much. It was a fun working with you. It was I don't think I would have I take that back. I know I would not have gotten that win without him. So yeah, thank you, Nick Rice-Puto.
Awesome. Hopefully you can carry that momentum through into the remaining races of the season, and we'll see and hear plenty more of you.
Yeah, hopefully we'll be talking. I'll be talking with you guys soon. Thank you.
There we go. Camden Hibbert, the pro class winner, Nick Rice-Puto, playing Kingmaker and sending him to the race win as they fought to the end. A Spec-5 World Tour from Road America. Devin, what a great race, and I'm glad Camden mentioned them as well. Our good friends at RC Sales.
Yeah, go to AussieSales.com for all that is Porsche. Aussie has thousands of parts available for virtually any Porsche model, providing high-quality service with a personal approach. And with worldwide shipping available, you won't need to go anywhere else. Visit AussieSales.com today.
So congratulations go to our race winners, Camden Hibbett and Jose Gonzalez. You'll catch us next week for Spec-5 World Tour when we'll get our haggis and our kilts ready, because we go to Knock Hill. I think a very, very different track to Road America. Nowhere near as smooth, nowhere near as long the straights, almost like a street circuit in a way, but it will be very, very interesting to watch. Knock Hill for Spec-5 World Tour round 11. Find it here on HJBC. Wherever you're watching, remember to subscribe, because we've got lots more sim racing content coming your way, including the Champ Car 4 Hours of Charlotte this weekend. Entries are still open on that one if you find to the Champ Car forum, or you'll watch all 4 hours live and uninterrupted here on HJBC. Thanks for joining us. Myself, David Haynes, Devin Peters, and Michael Derby. We'll see you around.